What's up, man?
I just took my daughter. We were on the way. I was dropping my son off at the gym, and I took my daughter to 7-Eleven because we were going to record the podcast. I didn't, get her a
Right.
Slurpee. As we walked in, there was a homeless guy outside, and she's smart. She always gets out on the other side where I am. And he's like, "Hey, man, can you spare change for $1?" And then he saw my daughter, and he turned around and went the other way. And when we
Hmm.
walked out, he was further away than when we walked in, and he said, "I apologize, man." And I got in the car and I said to my daughter, I'm like, see, he's a good man. He's just in a bad situation. I'm like, at least he recognized like that was inappropriate with a little girl to ask that question. And my daughter, who's 10, says, well, Daddy, it's better to be a good man in a bad situation than a bad man in a good situation. I'm like, you're fucking 10 years old.
How old is she?
It's crazy.
Jesus.
Crazy.
That is a very mature outlook.
Yeah.
But that was really good of that man, though. Like, really, he recognized it. Huh.
Yeah, and I didn't pay him any attention on the way in or anything. It's not like I said, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" Or I just kept walking straight,
Yeah.
And for him to on the way back to recognize, like, I screwed up, man. That's someone who has redemption. They're just in a bad situation. They are a good
That's
man, and
it.
that's the thing. It's like he's going through a bad situation. Okay, hopefully he can get himself out of it and not just live in this asking people for money,
Right.
but maybe asking for help. So that's a lot of what we do, man. We help good men who are in bad situations.
Yeah, we do.
It's a
We
lot of
do.
what we do.
Yeah, we've had several people who have come to us in a bad situation. They just can't get out of their own way sometimes, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's sometimes you don't realize that you're in the situation until it's too late. And then the hardest part is how do you get out of it? And often it's the battle with yourself of how you get yourself out of it. Right? And but you got to make choices. And here's a guy who's in a bad situation and he still recognizes he made a bad choice, and he just like can't get past making those bad choices,
Right.
right? So it's an interesting way of looking at it. But yeah, we have helped a lot of, listen, business is simple, it's just not easy. And and so many people complicate it, and that's what gets them in this bad situation.
And it's funny, those bad situations that people are in, others may look at them and be like, I would kill to be in that bad situation.
Yeah.
And it's, most of the people we work with have already realized success and they're looking for that next level. And it's, it's a weird position to be in to watch someone in a bad situation that homeless guy would have been like, dude, if I could only be in that situation, life would be wonderful. And it's
Yeah.
allowing people to understand how to move to that next phase of your life. And you and I have both been in those situations where it's like in the moment, in the microcosm, it's bad, but in the grand scheme of things, like, damn, we're lucky. And that's where most people are. And that's that elevation of moving yourself into the next phase of your existence, whether that's in business or in your parenting, in your relationships, and your friendships, that ability to recognize I'm in transition to this next phase. And while it feels bad right now, I can still progress forward. I could still be a good man or woman in those situations.
Well, and that's the key word, transition, right? Everybody that we work with is in some form of transition. And a transition phase is a place of change. It's learning new things, letting go of old things, and it's recognizing that what brought you to this point is not going to take you any further unless you make some changes and do things differently and explore new opportunities. And that's where people get lost, is they get stuck in the, what are the new opportunities? I don't see any opportunities. There are no opportunities. And then they get overwhelmed by the lack of opportunity. And then it's like, I thought this was a transition where I was supposed to do something else. And then they need help getting pulled out of that hole.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're throwing them a lifeline or a life vest. Just say, here you go. Here's something to help you float a little bit till you get to the next point, because you've got to get to that next point. Right. Everybody we work with, we don't bring people to the next point. We facilitate the opportunity to the next point, and the person brings themselves to that point.
Yeah.
And that's because we become, not to call out anything or showcase anything. I mean, we're like a lifesaver sometimes, but we're not a lifesaver. We're providing the support that's needed while you tread a little bit of water so that you can get to the shore and make it onto the boat or whatever, so you can keep going on your path.
Yeah. It's a bridge, right?
Yeah, exactly. We bridge the gap.
Yeah. But those are the gaps. It's like,
Oh,
people choose them, and it's tough watching so many people that are like, they're making choices on that gap that they're gonna jump over, and it's like, "Man, do you really need that? Do you really want that? Do you really desire that? Or is it just society, or, childhood ambitions, or societal expectations of yourself that I have to go there?" And I watch so many good people dig deeper into a bad situation by going after things that there is truly not in their heart and soul. At the end of the day, you got to make money, you got to pay the bills, you got to, put shelter and food and all that stuff. That's another situation. But these ones where your pursuit is about more, about greatness, I question a lot of times why people are pursuing those things. And like, does this really matter to you, or it's just a challenge you've put in front of you to make you feel invalidation of that pursuit itself?
well, that's an interesting question. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, when they get into a certain situation, they feel like they're worthless if they don't figure a way out of it, right? It becomes a reflection of themselves in that process. And like, do you let everything else that's around you, society, whatever, influence how you're going to get to your next level? Or are you going to decide what you need to do, what's the right thing to do for you, instead of what's right for everybody else? And I think that's what happens a lot of those times, is people only consider what's right for everybody else, and they don't consider what's right for themselves. And that's why they can never admit defeat, right? Sometimes you just got to throw in the towel. Sometimes you have been defeated. And like, I'm thinking of one particular person, this person that dug themselves into almost $1 million hole of debt with no way of coming out of it. I mean, at that point, you just have to admit defeat. There is no upside. There's no way you're going to be able to come back from this. But people fight so hard to admit the defeat because society says you can't admit defeat. You can't do that. And that's where the real decision is are you doing what's right for you, or are you doing what's right for everybody else?
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
Or is even facing the reality of the situation that you're in too. And that's where it usually comes down to. That's a lot of the work we start with people, but even we do for ourselves. And it's having this ability, this space, this time to look at, okay, where am I and where do I want to go? And I think many people struggle with that. It's really giving themselves the time to have an honest reflection of, this is the situation, and then where do I want to be? And I mean, even you struggle with that. I ask you many times, like, what do you want out of this thing? Oh, I'll get to it. Oh,
Yeah,
I'll get to it. Oh, I'll get to it. It's
yeah.
like, I've been looking at mine. I try to figure out what my priorities each year are. And while the ones I wrote at the beginning of this year, I still appreciate them and don't disagree with them, I don't know if that's what I want out of my daily activity.
Hmm.
Right? I think my daily activity, the byproduct of what those things are, could be these priorities. But I don't think that's what I want to pursue anymore. I think I've, through the course of this year, have realized that all of my pursuits allow me for those three priorities to be my life. And now it's like, okay, well, then what do I want to pursue?
Right. Well, that's why I struggle with it so much, right? Because I'm living what I set out to do several years ago, and it's like, okay, why would I want more than this? Or why would I want something different than this? And I think that's the thing I mean, that's the thing I struggle with every single day. I love I love the way things are right now. And it's not that I don't want more, I don't want better. It's I think there is some fear of disrupting what I have now to get that. And I think that's what a lot of people, face. They don't want to disrupt, they don't want to give into the fear, right? That may be there that is going to disrupt everything. But I think when I talking myself through this now, of course, is that it's not about the fear, it's about what's on the other side of walking through that phase of fear. And there is better, and I know there's better. And I think that for me personally, with everything this year has taught me, what my health has taught me this year, you know, right now I just want to be really healthy. I just want to be better. And I just want to get to that point where I can charge forward. I wish, I had so many thoughts over the last week while I've been healing from my surgery. And I've been thinking so much about when I was 20 something and early 30s, and how I need that guy to come back a little bit. I need that guy to be present, to have that. I don't have that ambition that I once had. It's not there anymore. And I don't know if it's because now I'm 48 and my life is different and I've been able to do everything that I wanted to do to this point, but I don't know. I'm trying to rekindle that ambition. Right? I'm trying to rekindle that passion. And I said to you earlier today, I know our business can be at another level by the end of next year. I don't have any doubt about that. And we have a plan, and we're going to stick to the plan, and we're going to run run the plan, right? And run the plays to make it all happen. There's just part of me that I don't know what's missing. It's that ambition, I think, that's just missing to it's like I always wanted to own my own business. Well, okay, I'm there, right? And we're making a living, and we're okay, and we're not in dire straits. We're not in those situations where we've been blessed to be able to what we've done for the last several years and do it very consistently, and be able to live our lives. But it's like I want that thing that was there when I was younger that I was striving for, and I don't find that I have that right now. Does that make sense?
No, it makes beautiful sense because that's exactly the point that I'm talking about with the transition. It's like, even when you and I talk about, okay, well, what's the next year? Tom and I do a lot of business planning for the following year in November. It's just the way I've done it. And then I commit to it in December. And Tom's been gracious enough to kind of, live that through proxy with me and do it with me. But that's the whole point, is this is the time of year around Thanksgiving when I start to think about, well, what's going to drive me next year? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's the idea. It's that as you achieve all the greatness that you've set out to do, it's what's left. And is there a pursuit? And we talk to many people about this, is like, you can go two ways. You can, let's just make a goal of, you want to make enough money to live your life and spend time with your kids, right? So that's a goal for somebody.
Mhm.
Well, then once you achieve that, you can choose this path up or this path down, or maybe let's do it differently, this path left and this path right.
Right.
And this path left could be like, okay, I figured it out, now I'm going to make more money, okay, and be even bigger and badder than I was. Or the other path could be, well, now that I figured out, I'm going to make the same money, and I'm going to spend less time doing it and more time with my family or my hobbies or whatever it is. And the point is many people feel the tug of like, well, if I'm good enough to do this, shouldn't I do more?
Right.
But we don't always have to, right? We can choose to, like, no, I'm
Mhm.
going to do less but better, right? That was the theme. Do less
Right.
but better. And better doesn't necessarily mean more, right? But I
Right.
think there's a tug of war on most people's hearts and brains and souls of like, but I'm supposed to, if I can do this, I know I can do that and go up and level it up. Well, then I should. And it's that, instead of choosing and really choosing, this is what I want to pursue.
Right. It's the obligation versus the choice. Sometimes we should on ourselves, like we talk about, right? We should all over ourselves, and that becomes the obligation. Are we fulfilling the obligation? And I feel like sometimes that I'm fulfilling an obligation to myself and to you and to our business, but I'm not choosing all of those things, right? They don't become all the choices. And that's the thing that I think is really difficult, is that you have to remember that everything that you do in your business, in your life, should be, I shouldn't say should, is a choice, right? It is the choice that we are given, right? Just like that man, to bring it back to the homeless guy, he made that choice to ask that question of you, and then he recognized you were with your daughter and it wasn't an appropriate choice, but it was still his choice. And then he chose the right thing, and he chose the better thing. And I think that's what happens with so many people, is that you sometimes back into what you chose as wrong, then you choose the right, and choosing the right then becomes the obligation of fulfilling because what you did wrong. I think people battle with that, and that's where the shoulds come in. Oh, I should have done that. No, just choose that, right? Or choose this. And I think that's where, like, I'm struggling with the ambition piece, is that, where is my ambition right now? Where is my obsession? Like, we talk about our CEO mindset and, you know, commitment, effort, obsession. Where is the obsession right now? And I'm not sure where my obsession lies. I feel like I have a obsession completely outside of our business, but the business is not the obsession, and that's been part of the issue this year, right? The obsession is I have hopefully only a few more months to, like, focus on that obsession, and then I can breathe and become obsessed about something else. I feel like you can't be too obsessed with 2 different things at the same time. It's impossible.
No, well, you really can't. And you've had 4 obsessions of late, right? It's your son, your health, monarch, and
Right.
atomic, right? And it's like you've
Right.
had these 4 obsessions, so that means they each get
Right.
25% of you.
Right. Exactly.
That's
And
it.
those 25% don't work. It doesn't work. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. I mean, and honestly, I think it was obsession about my son that pauses in November just because baseball season, and then it became obsession about my health. And that's where I am right now, so that's the only thing I'm really thinking about is my health, and I have to recognize I gotta start to get prepared for what's next, and it's going back to my son in some ways, but it is starting to veer in a different direction business-wise, and that's, like, even like the conversation we had earlier, like, I still have some clients in my other business, and I'm like, "What is that really doing for me? Do I really like that anymore? Do I still wanna do that?" And I think that obsession is becoming much less. So it's like they're starting to find their ways, and I think sometimes that's what has to happen too, is they have to just slide in where they belong, and you have to just let some things happen to make that happen.
Well, that's what happened with my financial planning practice, and mainly the investment and the insurance side of it is handed it off to somebody. He and I meet every few months to talk about things, and he asks for a little guidance or a little help, and every once in a while I have to jump in. And it's at a point where it's not intrusive in anything else that I do, right? And it feels good to do, and it's like, oh, it doesn't feel obligatory. It doesn't feel like tedious tasks. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel like even a responsibility. Okay, it feels like this cool thing I get to do every once in a while, and it's nice. And yeah, we have some regularly scheduled times when he and I get together now, but even that, it's like we spend a half an hour together, and 15 minutes is just catching up. How's your son? What's going on? He was
Right.
telling my son about hunting the other day, and like it's just nice. We get to catch up, and then we happen to get to business for a little bit, and then it's like okay. And that's always a debate because of the amount of money I can make in that industry and how simple it is. It's still very, very hard work, but how simple it is because of 25 years of doing it, it's just second nature.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, do I pursue any of that anymore in a simpler form than I've ever done before? Because by the end of my
Sure.
practice, um, it was super complex, meaning there were many, many, many moving parts. It all stemmed from financial planning and then went to insurance and benefits and pension plans and investments and real estate and all these things were attached to it where I could very simply go back in and choose one path that maybe I am passionate about and just pursue that. And it sounds good as you're saying it. And it feels like, well, I could, so why shouldn't I? And then you start to think about, like, what would your day look like? And this is where I've been going more and more in my daily thoughts about what am I going to pursue in 26 is okay, forget it, forget Atomic, forget Tom, forget the clients, forget the money, forget the kids, even forget Adam. What do
Mm.
you want your days to operate like? How do you want days? If you could just say, here's a great day that could operate for any human being, what would be a good look? What would be an ideal situation that feels right to you? Doesn't matter if there's evidence that it's right, but it feels right. And I've been looking at it through that lens to try to imagine what does that look like because I'm obsessed, my days aren't what I feel I want them to be. I love almost every moment of it. And then when I'm done with a moment, I'm like, is that really what I wanted to do? I got it done. And I'm like, okay, it's accomplished and everything. But I'm
Right.
like, is that a good
Right.
use of the time that this day allowed for? And
Mhm.
I don't mean productively. I don't mean financially. I don't mean for your health or mental well being or any of those things. I just mean like from desire.
Mm.
Like if you could go have a redo of the last hour, would you do that again, knowing what you know now? And the cool
Right.
thing is, I get to know what I know about living my life and running businesses and do these things. So, what does the day look like? And can I build a day around what I would like it to look like? Because it's hard for me to say, all right, between these hours and these hours, between these days and these days, like we've committed to taking Fridays off. I haven't taken a Friday off since we've committed to do that. I just haven't. It's just a different opportunity for me to pursue the things I'm passionate about. Now, some of those I put on as self-inflicted responsibilities. Some of them I've put on as, exploration, and I get to like try things. Some of them are creativity. Some of them are just relaxation. Some of them are things we must get done that I'm just like I put off too long. But
Right.
that's what I've used that time for. But then I also do that on the weekends too. And it's like there's no end to it. So I'm like, wait, why don't I just lean into this? And why don't I look at it from a holistic standpoint of just a circadian rhythm of Adam.
Mm.
And in that time when he's awake, what are the things he'd love to do? And I don't know if they need to be routine. I don't know if they need to be flexible, but that's how I'm looking at it now because I am very confident that no matter what it is, it's going to be successful.
Yes.
So why not make some choices of like, all right, this is how I'd like it to operate. This is how I'd like it to look, regardless of how it's done. This is how I'd like it to look.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been
That's an
viewing it.
interesting Yeah, that's an interesting concept, the circadian rhythm of Adam. I like that. I mean, because we go through rhythms. And I think that's part of the struggle is finding the rhythm when there's so many other things that you're paying attention to. And I think it's a good thing that you looked at it just as living that rhythm and what does that look like because we get caught up in all the other stuff and that takes away from the rhythm, right? Like your regular rhythm is thrown off when you get a cold because there's other variables that have come into play, and that's how you have to look at this is that you need to find your rhythm, and I think that's part of maybe that's part of why I'm struggling too is my rhythm has been totally off. Like I don't have a rhythm that I'm used to anymore. Like it's a rhythm that doesn't work for me necessarily. And that's a lot of that makes so much sense right now. I don't know why that's clicking so much, but I'm looking at, and because remember we said when we change our schedule back to the school schedule and we put our schedule on, it made sense logically. It made sense from an attention management standpoint. It made sense from all those other things. But I think you just hit the nail on the head. For me, it's not rhythm. I don't have a rhythm. And it's that and we need to find a rhythm. And I think one of the things that we have done and that a lot of people maybe don't even know about is that we do a lot together throughout the course of the day. And maybe part of that rhythm is that we're both trying to beat to each other's drum and we can't. And that's part of like because if I think of what would be a rhythmic day, it's kind of like seeing clients, meeting new people, maybe going to an event or a lunch or a dinner. Like those are the days I have the most fun, when we get to go out and see people and meet new people and have a lunch or a dinner. Those are the days where I get different energy and my rhythm is very, very different. Like, I think that's the thing I have to examine over the next week or so, is what's the rhythm that I need to, and because that could be what's holding the ambition down,
Yeah.
is that I'm not in my own rhythm. That's a
Well,
great way to look at it, man.
yeah, and I've started to recognize things because we've had some weird rhythms lately that we've been forced into, whether it was clients had to reschedule or you were out or whatever they've
Right.
been. And I've looked at that and I've looked at the past as well. And so when we have an event, I almost want that to be the only thing that I do that day. Right? Because it
Me too.
takes me so much energy to be present in those events before and afterwards. And I'm like, I don't want to see clients. I don't want to work on stuff. It's like, I just want that to be the whole day and everything surrounds around that day. And then there's times when we're seeing clients back to back to back. And I don't, it's not that I mind the back to back. I need a little break in between. It doesn't have to be tremendous.
Yeah.
But after seeing like 3 in a day, I'm done. I'm useless to myself.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, so there's that rhythm too. And then there's the days when I get to be sales Adam, and those are my most fun days. It's like so it's just such a challenge when I get to just have conversations. It's not for all of you listening or watching. It's not selling like trying to convince people to buy stuff. It's like I get to show somebody a path to where they want to go and inspire them and then happen to provide a solution, which that solution is usually us. But that those opportunities that I get are so much fun. Like it's, oh, this is great.
Mhm.
Just sharing whether they do business with me or not. It's the ability to share that. But that takes a feeling of mine. So it's
Mhm.
hard to put that in a rhythmic place. It's either I feel that way today or I don't. And when I feel that way and I just do it, it's like, okay, it usually builds and builds and builds. And then there's an end. There's a natural end. I don't know if that's 3 people, if that's 10 closes, if that's
Right.
3 hours, if whatever it is, it's just a feeling. And we are in a lucky enough position in our lives and our businesses where we don't need to be so rigid. So it's like, all right, how do you design a day like that? And where's the time for you personally? And where's the things you want to do with your family? And where's the things you want to do for your fitness and health? And developing all of that that works for the two of us, that works for our clients, that
Right.
works for the pursuit of a certain revenue stream. It's difficult, but it has to start, it all has to start somewhere, it has to start with
Yeah.
something that is personally agreed upon and can be collaboratively worked on.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. Like, it really, like, you become caught up in the monotony and the mundane, and that's where you lose your rhythm, because it's not monotony, like, monotony is not a rhythm for me. It's 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 just a thing, and I think that's part of what, I mean, we've tried to do so many different things. I think we really just have to look at, how do we change this so it fits your rhythm, fits my rhythm, but it still can produce what we want it to produce, and that's the hard part. That's the challenge,
Yeah, I
and
think the interesting thing is whenever we look at our calendars and we see clients on that schedule, there's no question to it. It's like, okay, we're going to show we are
exactly,
every time we are who we are, we deliver the results, we show up there, we do the thing. It's all the surrounding pieces.
correct.
It's all of that
Yep,
stuff because we built this to be able to do that coaching. That's what we built it for. And when we are lucky enough to do it, it's a wonderful thing for everybody involved, the client and two of us.
mhm,
And then comes either the before or after that.
right,
And that's the
right,
stuff that and it's not something like, oh well, we could just hire somebody to do that. Not really. It's
oh,
not a thing like that. It's an energy that it takes to do all the other stuff. And it's nonsense doesn't bother us anymore. Emails and content and engagement, that doesn't really get under our skin. But
no,
there's other parts of it. And I think it comes down to, I'm just realizing this as we're talking, the pursuit of our potential, because you and I know how much potential we have as advisors, as performance coaches, life coaches, business coaches, whatever you want to say, there's so much potential. And it's like if we were just dropped on another planet where everybody's like, we need you. I don't think we'd ever get exhausted.
No, 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 because when we get to do what we want to do, which is see the clients and do the thing or do the event or whatever, it's like a no-brainer. It's effortless. It's seamless. And that's what we're trying, but like you said, all the other stuff is a disruption to that, but so much of that other stuff though is necessary.
So that's where I was about to go. You brought me there. Is there probably needs to be an audit, which every business is supposed to do this, and we've done it from time to time, but we probably need to do an audit of all the things that we are doing or using that aren't necessarily in the pursuit of what our goal is.
Correct.
And there's so much that's there that's either at a convenience or at a why wouldn't we, because we're also doing this, why wouldn't we do that? But there's a lot of these things that we are working on or towards that maybe aren't useful for the
Right.
rhythm of the day, the harmony of our
Mhm.
lives, the pursuit of our purpose. And maybe
It's a
there's
good
just a
point.
giant audit we need to do.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think our strategy that we're talking about for 26 with the in-persons, the engagement, and yada yada, like, I think that is the lens to look through it. Like, that's definitely the lens because everything we do every single day is to either coach people and acquire new clients. That's it. That's it. That's the only goal of the two of the our all of our activities. Is are we putting ourselves in a position to acquire new people? Are we putting ourselves in a position to coach new people or to continue coaching? And it really comes down to, are we getting people to coach?
But even that,
It's
it's
one
so,
thing.
so hold on. I want to, because I think if you just look at it a little differently, like we're never looking to acquire new people. Like I don't think that's ever in
Right.
our pursuit. Our pursuit is to be around good people who we could potentially help.
Yes.
And but
Yep.
that's what almost every event we do, our super groups, our 3Q networking, the morning meetings that we do, the online events that we do, all those things, we never go into that with a sales pitch. We never go in with a Russell
No.
Brunson funnel and we'll teach you this
Right.
and we'll do that and we'll get you here and we'll have the hook. And while that's wonderful, that's not what we're doing it for. We're doing it, and it's just by happenstance we come across people that we align with that are spiritual and smart and have a desire for a meaningful connection. And it just
Mhm.
happens to be they need us at that time and we could help. I mean, the client we were working with today, I said to him right
Yep.
out loud, I said, I think we just found each other at the exact right time for you. And he was like, yeah, man. He's like, this was like the
Yep.
perfect time for me to have this style of coaching.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a part of it where in the task and the work and the energy we put towards in client acquisition, it's not true to who we are and how we operate and what we even need to do. Like we don't need one more client. We
No.
don't.
No.
We say we want it,
Right.
but we don't need it. But that could be another side is, do we really not want it? And that's why we don't allow it to happen sometimes too.
That's true. I mean, if our days were just going out to lunches and dinners and meeting with people, that would be awesome. I mean, that's 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 it. It's as that simple because it's just
Well,
the
see, for me,
connection with
it's not though.
people.
See, for me, that is the most exhausting thing in the world. That's why I say if we do that, that has to almost be the only thing on my day. This is why I try to do a lot of lunches on Fridays when we don't have other things to do because I know how
Right.
exhausting that is between the travel, getting ready to
Mhm.
travel,
Yeah.
go out there, be on at the whole lunch, commute back, think about what to do with this information afterwards, be on with someone new that I don't have a frame of reference, learn,
Mhm.
absorb, listen, apply that back, be cordial. Like all that is so much energy for me. Where
Yeah.
if I did that every single day, I would not want to do anything else.
We gotta find, again, what's the right rhythm?
Well, that's why
What's
the
the
super
right
groups, the
rhythm?
framework of like, okay, these
Right.
people, these amount of times, I'm gonna sit with them. Okay, and we know what we're doing when we go there, and even now we know what restaurants we're going to. Those
Right.
variables, when I start to remove out the variables, it requires less of my energy,
Mhm.
right?
Agreed.
This is why even
Yep,
now
that
I'm
makes a lot
starting
of
to
sense.
use Instagram once again because one of our friends has had great success and like, hey, it's Instagram's a little bit different. I'm using it again.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, it's fun until it won't be fun. But like LinkedIn, we've changed the way I'm using that there. And it didn't change anything in our business positive or negatively, but it changed how I used it and how I felt about it. And so
Right.
it's those things. It's where is the, and this is where we tried to build our calendar around was energy, the attention management, the energy that comes into each type of task.
Yep.
We didn't adhere to it. That was part of the issue.
Right.
But does that make sense? And it's really figuring out how do you carry through a day that makes sense for you and then can work for the overall organization.
It's finding the rhythm, brother. Woo!
All right, to be continued, to be continued.
Yeah,
All right,
very
hope we
good.
didn't bore you to death. Hope you get something out of this if you listen to it and you can apply it to your business or challenge you to think differently. Be the CEO.